This is about how I and so many other people have been able to save some serious cash through biking. Who would have guessed it? And through following the advice by none other than Mr. Money Mustache. Just in the last 5 years, I've been able to save over $20,000 just through cycling to work, biking to the library, to the grocery store, anywhere I can, just making biking part of my daily life. So Mr. Money Mustache is this lifestyle finance guru guy who retired at 30 years old and now has one of the largest cult-like followings in recent history. On the surface, if you look at his website, it seems like he talks mostly about finance, how to save, how to become rich, and how to invest your money. But under all of that, Mr. Money Mustache is an unapologetic bike enthusiast. In fact, Pete even states in a blog post that the bicycle is probably the single most important and highest yielding investment that a human can possibly own. Guys, this is Mr. Money Mustache himself. He's the guy who literally millions of people are taking financial advice from. And he has stated, Mustachianism, which is what he calls his following, has many facets. But if I had to strip it down as far as possible, down to just one single action, and I wasn't allowed to talk about anything else, the choice would still be simple. Ride a bike. But really, how realistic is it to make biking part of your daily life into a habitual action that you do every day? And most importantly, what kind of savings and benefits can you see in your own life? Personally, I've been a secret MMM follower for the last 5 years since 2016. And as soon as I stumbled upon his blog and read through all his articles, and I realized that all of his content is based in just science, math, statistics, I instantly gobbled up everything. I immediately got a road bike and I started biking to work from New Jersey to New York City to Manhattan, where I worked every day, 13-mile one-way. And I started saving half of my income, 50% of my income, and investing it. This video is going to tell you exactly what kind of returns I've seen and what kind of returns you can see if you do the same thing. So the first question we get into is exactly how do you retire with biking? How did Mr. Money Mustache retire himself? And how much can you actually save realistically through making biking a part of your life? Mr. Money Mustache estimates that the savings had from just biking instead of driving for a 10-year period adds up to $93,432 just over a 10-year period. And this is one of the primary ways that MMM himself retired early, saved enough so that he could just be financially independent and never have to work again. He did it biking to work. He did it through the winters. He did it even riding with a child with a bike trailer, and even with traveling with heavy cargo, all on a bike. These savings are estimated at 50 cents per mile that you're riding a bike instead of driving. And those cost savings alone are from gas, from car depreciation, and from maintenance fees associated with driving. So the savings on just car depreciation and gas alone from biking more and not driving add up to $10,000 over a 10-year period. But the savings don't end there. He makes a solid argument in many of the articles that just by biking instead of driving, you're actually doing a lot more savings than just from the car associated costs alone. He states that from this savings alone, doing a couple of bike errands per day, 4 miles a day, in place of car errands will add up to $10,752 over 10 years. So where exactly does this $93,432 actually come from? It might sound like a crazy amount of money to save just from biking, but the math actually does check out, and I have seen similar results in my own life. That 100 grand basically is reached by basically adding savings from gas, insurance, health costs associated with biking instead of driving, added productivity, which is a big argument that he makes throughout his blog, is that the more you are active and physically active and less inactive, the more focused and more energy that you have throughout the day to be more productive and increase your income. So now we're going to break down exactly where that $100,000 of savings is coming from. And then we're going to talk about how to invest that money, because saving money is only half of the equation unless we're investing it. So I'm going to talk about what Mr. Money Mustache actually recommends readers, and also himself, what he does to invest large amounts of money. So the first chunk of savings associated with biking instead of driving is from gas savings, which is $10,752 over a 10-year period. This amount assumes a savings rate of 50 cents per mile biked and an average of 4 miles per day biked. That would equate to 1,460 miles over a 365 days per year. In other words, that's 14,600 miles ridden by bike over a 10-year period. So 14,600 miles at 50 cents per mile, that's $7,300. And on top of just the gas, there's the wear and tear to the car, the maintenance of car, and the depreciation of the car. So it's just over $10,000 total saved from just biking instead of driving. And then there's the savings of not getting an unnecessarily expensive car that the average consumer does get. And those savings are $30,000 estimated by MMM himself of savings of not buying an unnecessarily expensive car. And this is the one area that I generally don't agree with MMM's assessment over the savings from biking, and I'll talk about why that's the case at the end of this video. And then he adds on $7,680 in savings over a 10-year period from more bike rides and doing free outdoor activities as opposed to spending that money on expensive luxury experiences. And then this is getting interesting. There's $37,500 saved every decade in increased productivity. MMM's main point throughout a lot of the blog is that when you invest in your health, when you bike more and drive less, you become more productive with your time, you become more focused, you become more energized as a person. And we can't deny there are studies that are done that exercise in general does boost your productivity. I can even say, as an entrepreneur myself, as a business owner, I cannot deny that exercise, for me, biking itself particularly, does increase my productivity and in the end does increase my income. When I first started biking to New York City from New Jersey to work every day, the first 2 weeks I did it was pretty exhausting, honestly, and I got pretty tired. But after you hit that like 2-week mark of just doing it every day, you really start to get more energy from exercise. Your body gets used to it, and it actually is just more energizing rather than draining. And then Mr. Money Mustache adds a $7,500 savings from healthcare. He states that there's a $500 per year savings from just less doctor visits and medical expenses and prescription drugs, etc., etc. Personally, I think that estimate is actually pretty low, considering in my own life I have significantly lost weight. My heart has been extremely efficient, and my overactive thyroid has been fixed completely. So to me, it's way more than a $500. If we're thinking long-term, like thinking about the long-term benefits of my health, even when I'm older, if I maintain this habit of just biking everywhere, it is more than $500 per year in my book. So now you've saved a ton of money, $100,000 over a 10-year period. I personally have seen similar results, and I'll get to that in just a second. And now we're going to talk about where do you invest it, because that's only half the piece of the pie is saving the money, but what do you do with that money? And this is exactly what to do. Before we do that, I just want to say, if this video has been helpful for you, I would encourage you to give a like to it so that more people can find this content, and also you can consider subscribing to more content like this. So here we go. How does MMM himself invest his money? Mr. Money Mustache himself is a huge advocate for simple, passive index fund investing. He consistently encourages all readers to just buy low-cost index funds from Vanguard. In fact, Mr. Money Mustache himself invests a huge portion of his own funds into index funds. When he sold his house for $400,000, 80% of that actually went straight into index funds with Vanguard. In his own words, he states, "My own retirement income comes from a dead simple asset allocation, a bunch of index funds at Vanguard and Betterment, which pay quarterly dividends." So let's go back to that 10-year number of $93,432 that MMM himself estimates that you'll be able to save just from biking. What happens if you not just save it and let it sit, but what happens to those funds over a 10-year period if you just let it sit and you don't add to it and you don't take out of it? What happens after 10 years? What happens after 20 years? What happens after 30 years? This is where it gets really exciting. If you invest $100,000 right now into Vanguard's STSAX, which is a whole market index fund, which has a 5-year average return of 11%. If you invest it for 10 years and just let it sit, the end result is $265,293. But wait, it gets better. If you let that fund sit for 20 years and you don't touch it, it becomes $753,278. Wow. But hold on, after 30 years, if you're young and you're investing right now and making biking part of a serious priority in your life like I am, that funds of $100,000 after 30 years is this: $2,138,873. These numbers are just incredible, astounding, But I do have a big issue with this personally. Now, I wholeheartedly agree with Mr. Money Mustache in his estimates. I have seen similar estimates myself. However, the big issue I have is these numbers are estimates for the average consumer, the average American consumer in particular. If you are anyone that has common sense, or if you are a MMM reader yourself, there is a good chance that your estimates won't add up to this over a 10-year period if you bike as part of your daily life. And this is the reason I wanted to make this video for you guys. It's because I wanted to assess MMM's evaluation and estimates for how much you can save versus a realistic, like truly a big fan of MMM, and I follow all of his advice. I make biking a serious priority in my life. I invest everything, more than 50% of my income now. But I want to share the results that I've actually seen in a realistic setting. So the first 2 years that I started biking, I took my bike every day, every single day through winter, blistering heat, everything, for 2 years from New Jersey to Manhattan, New York City. And through doing that, I saved a tremendous amount of money in bus and train tickets. So in total, over just a 2 year period, I was able to save $10,400. And that's basically just a dollar for dollar calculation of not taking the bus or train, which is about $20 round trip for me to do, instead of doing that just biking. But on top of that, there's the health benefits and the productivity benefits. As soon as I heard about MMM and started reading his blog, I was recently diagnosed with hyperthyroidism, which is an overactive thyroid, which is somewhat common in my demographic. But also I had more scary for me is I had an overactive heart. My heart was beating way too fast for my age. I was 80 beats per minute, and it was just way too fast. I was really honestly scared that I might have a heart attack or something. So I took MMM's advice to heart when he started talking about the health and wealth benefits. So according to MMM, that's for me over $500 per year saved, not only immediately but also long term in the future because of the health changes I've had. And of course, since I moved from New York down here to North Carolina, I have been making biking a serious priority in our lives, even with our kids, just to make any distance, basically under 5 miles, a priority to just take the bike instead of the car. So adding in those savings, as well as the $10,400 of savings I did in New York City, and also adding in the health benefits of biking. And on top of that, over the last 5 years of making biking a serious priority and biking to work, biking everywhere, I've been putting those funds into a index fund and just letting it sit, and I'm just letting it ride the stock market. And this is what I'm really excited about, to see the growth, to see it just compound year after year and continue to grow. This is the power of biking in itself. So making biking a serious priority in my life and taking the advice of Mr. Money Mustache himself, I have been able to save over $20,000 in a 5-year period. So all in all, if you're an average American consumer, yes, you can hit $100,000 easily every decade from just biking more instead of consuming instead of just driving. But if you have or someone with any common sense, if you're an MMM reader yourself, the more realistic estimate is that you will be hitting $50,000 per decade, and that is my personal experience. If you want those kinds of returns, then you're gonna have to smash the like button to help this video get spread more, and also consider subscribing. This is where we're really talking about how to make biking part of your daily life. If you have kids, I don't care, we got stuff for you. By the way, if you want to see all of these estimates and exactly where they come from, you can check out a helpful article that I'm going to put right down below that really outlines everything that Mr. Money Mustache ever said about biking and saving money.